Dad, look what I found. Your memory.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. I could feel Alzheimer's setting in. I thought that thing was gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought it was gone too.
So good to see you, Abigail.
It's good to see you too. So I was just looking through here, and I just saw some interesting things. Wow, you are really old.
Sorry about that. As you grow older, you get jiggles where you didn't used to have them before.
So I just found a couple things on here some videos that I just thought you'd want to share with everybody. This one's titled Nuggets. What do you think about that one?
Nuggets? I like nuggets.
All right. Are you going to push play?
Oh, why don't you go ahead and open that folder and see what's in the files.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my goodness. Wait till it's Esther's turn. She's going to turn red.
Okay, let's open. Oh.
One's further down there.
Oh, pick a different one. Okay. How about Jeremiah?
Jeremiah. Well, let's go ahead and play that video.
Let's play
Can
that
y'all
video.
put that one on the big screen? That was for you, Esther. Continuing our series of, yeah, that's not going to be the one, but that's nice. This is Jeremiah. I'd just like to speak to you for a moment about Jeremiah 12:5. This is my life verse. And it's good to have so many interns here. We're just doing a little orientation this morning. We're going to make sure all the interns are taken care of. So Jeremiah 12:5 is my life verse. It goes like this. If you've raced with men on foot and they've worn you out, how can you compete with horses? If you stumble in the safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan? I got this verse in 1992. That was when King James was young. And the Lord was speaking to me. I was in Brazil in the Amazon, and the Lord was showing me that the life that I was living was preparation for a life that was coming later. That the things that the Lord was taking me through at that time were getting me ready to do things that were even greater in the future. And as I was looking at my life and I was beginning to complain about how hard things were, the Lord was saying, look, dude, if you're going to race against men on foot, if you're going to be messing around with little people, how are you going to mess with men on horses? See, this was written, Jeremiah is speaking to the people of Israel, and he's getting ready to talk to them about the Babylonians are coming. And the children of Israel are going, we're something. And we're something. And the Lord's going, whoa. That's a little horse pun. He's going, whoa. If you are with your own people, this is all you're able to do, whenever the Babylonians come, who are real soldiers, who have a real army, who are really warriors, when they come, you're sunk. In other words, if you can't walk across level ground, if you stumble in the safe country, how can you manage in the thickets by the Jordan? How are you going to manage whenever things are tough? Esther's nieces used to come. I'm going to talk fast this morning, by the way. Esther's nieces used to come to our house, and they're city girls, little pudgy city girls, but cute. And they grew up in apartments, and so they were used to running and having fun, but they would get to our house in the Dominican Republic, and Isaac and Abigail would be there, and they'd start chasing Isaac and Abigail, and Isaac and Abigail would just take off up the mountain. Boom! And those little girls would take off too, about 2 steps and fall. 2 steps and fall. Who knew that there was ground that wasn't level? They had never experienced unlevel ground in their life. They'd never experienced having to go through obstacles before in their life. And so they could barely walk on level ground, in all honesty. Grace was not in their gene pool. But it's okay. Whatever. And so they had to learn to manage in ground that was not level. My encouragement to you is, while you're in the safe country, while you're walking on level ground, dig deep, go hard, find the truth, so that whenever the hard times do come, you're able to go forward.
What about interior, exterior?
Oh, I don't have a pen. Is this going to mess with the video? coincidentally, I have a flip chart right here. We'll freeze the video.
Actually, you forgot the second half of Jeremiah. We only watched the first half of that
Okay,
video.
we can watch the second half of the Jeremiah video then. Sorry. The other verse from Jeremiah that really is a challenge to me is Jeremiah 14:22. It says something. Oh, it talks about rain. It's coming back up. It'll be here. This is a verse that talks about 3 worldviews in one verse. The first worldview is animistic. The second worldview is secular. And the third worldview is Christian. It says, "Are there among you the idols of the nations who give rain?" In other words, I found this verse when we were in the Dominican Republic, and we had gone to somebody's house, and there on their wall they had an idol. It wasn't Mary, it was one of the other saints that they prayed to that the Lord would not destroy the world by flood again. I said, whoa. What about the rainbow? The first thing out of my mouth was, what about the rainbow? What about the rainbow? If you're praying to somebody, God sent a promise. What about the rainbow? And they said, oh, well, this is what we believe and this is how we do it. And I said, wow, they're praying to their idols about rain. And that is so wrong. And then it says, or can the heavens grant showers? And I said, oh, Lord, why? Why is this in here? Because that's what the entire United States thinks. Where does rain come from? Rain comes because humidity evaporates, condenses in the clouds, and then it just randomly falls. The skies themselves send forth rain. It just comes. It's a natural phenomenon. There's no control over it. Or is it you, O Lord our God? And that is the truth. God sends rain. And we have to be careful that we don't fall into the idolatry of animism or into the self-centeredness of secularism, but that we walk solidly in biblical thought. All right, next one.
All right, interior, exterior.
I'm glad you asked about that one. I'm not going to explain anything. I'm just going to draw 2 triangles, and they're not good triangles. I'm going to pretend like I can draw triangles.
I'm going to start this video over.
We can call one of these interior and one of these exterior. Here's the principle. You know that it's true. In life, the more self-control that you have, the less control someone from the outside is going to place on you. In other words, if you get a job and you show up on time, you're faithful, you do what you're asked, you're not a whiner, baller, complainer, you do all the little things, you take care of details, you're showing that you have a high level of interior government, that you're able to manage yourself, and your boss will begin to pay less and less attention to you. After the first 2 weeks, your training will cease, and your boss will begin to pay less attention. He'll say, that dude is trustworthy, he can do stuff. Eventually, as you show that you have a greater level of integrity, and greater, I'm looking at the width of this, he'll hand you keys, he'll turn his back on you, you'll work in the cash registers, you do all of these things. You'll start to manage other people. Now, if you go to get a job and you show yourself to be one who cannot show up on time, one who cannot do a job completely, one who cannot follow through on anything, that you have very little interior government, then they're going to put some monster over you who is going to watch you day and night, probably place videos in the Sonic, because that's where you're going to be working. That's going to be the apex of your employment. Put video cameras in there, and you're going to be observed all the time. There will be exterior government placed over the top of you. Somebody's going to be watching those videos to make sure that poor little whoever it is taking care of their business. Now, this goes to extremes. If you have very little interior government, you're going to get very much exterior government. For instance, if you can't walk out in public without, that's the Dominican sign, without stealing stuff, without, fighting, without doing all of these things, the exterior government will eventually turn into an 8x8 room with a free cot and bars on the windows. And that exterior government, you'll get your 1 hour sunshine a day or whatever it is, and these things. So the interior government, as your character increases, the amount of freedom that you have in life will increase. This is happening in the United States of America, by the way. Our forefathers had a great level of character, and formed a government that was very light on the people, a yoke that was very light. And as our human nature, character is diminishing, we're seeing that the government is becoming bigger and bigger and invading our lives more and more. And so you can watch it in a geopolitical sense, you can watch it in a personal sense, you can watch it in your children. The little poopers and criers that were right there, very little interior government. Very little ability to manage themselves. And so mommy has to be there, has to put food in their mouths, has to wipe their bottoms, has to do everything for them. The hope is that eventually they will increase in character and that mommy will not still be changing their diaper when they're in high school. Michaela. Okay? Done. Next node.
Let's do God's hands.
Oh.
God's hand.
God's hand. Well, and this is really two different things, and just testimony. And I wanted to share, whenever we went to the Dominican Republic, we moved into the village. As we were looking for a house in the village, one of the things that we went to the village and we looked at a house. As we were leaving the village, someone sent a message to us by child, because they're messengers, a note that said, "We will not accept evangelicals in this community." And we took that piece of paper. I looked at Esther, and one of the two of us said, I'm not sure who said it, "These people did not call us to this community, and these people are not sending us away." And we began to work in that community. We moved in. We found a little house. The Lord said, "Shut up." So where's Mr. Crowley? Yeah. I noticed how when you started talking this morning, you said, "The Lord's been talking to me about being quiet," and everyone sat down. This is going to... No. He said, "Be quiet." And we spent our first year not doing Bible studies, not talking about anything that wasn't asked of us. Esther had a little card game ministry where she'd play cards with women, and women would ask her questions. What do you believe about wearing makeup? What do you believe about the Virgin Mary? What do you believe about, how come you wear pants if you say you're a Christian? All the things that standard, not standard here, but standard there questions. And the Lord blessed. We were living in a small house, 12 by 15, the entire house, 12 by 15. Two bedrooms and a living room. Yes, bathroom and kitchen. If you take bathrooms and kitchens out of your house can reduce drastically. If you build a nice outhouse with 2 holes in it, you can paint the love shack on the side of it, and it's wonderful. It's like communion time. You and your wife can spend quality time there. All kinds of things can happen. Never happened. It never happened. It never happened. I did paint the love shack on the side of the outhouse. We began to look at what the Lord wanted us to do, and the Lord was talking to us about buying land in the community. And so we went to the Lord just provided land. Boom. We were in the States, and someone called us from the DR and said, "There's land for sale." And I said, "Just ask for them to wait, and whenever we get there." And so we were able to buy land. And then there was no running water, no electricity in this community, so we were bathing in the river. We were doing all of that stuff. It's really not fun to be up till midnight whenever there's no electricity. I would encourage you, if you have insomnia, unplug everything and just lay in your bed in the pitch blackness night after night. It's wonderful. We moved. We began to move. We began to build. And as we began to build, just as we were beginning to mix cement, like 3 days before we were beginning to, no, that's not true, because I think I hauled 1 load of water from the river, and then the water system was finished. They had been working on a water system for that community for 3 years. And as we needed water to mix cement, the water system came. We built our house. We did all this. We learned to lay block in the cistern underground, and then put all the rebar in it and stuff. And we did all that where no one would see it, where it'd be buried. And then we went down and we started building the house. We built the house, and we got the roof on, and we did all that stuff. And it was time to put in the windows and that stuff. And for that, you got to drill holes into concrete and do all this. And the week that we finished and were ready to put in windows, electricity arrived at the community. They've been working on that for about 10 years. They've been working on it forever, and it arrived just at the right time. And we watched the Lord time after time. Our little car was just getting beat up on the road, so the government decides to fix the road. So many things happened, and we didn't notice. And then someone from the community said, since you guys showed up in our community has been blessed. We love having you here. And the doors of the gospel began to open. We said, the Lord asked me, or I felt like the Lord was saying that we should go up to the highest point on the island, which is the highest point in the Caribbean, and that we should pray and worship and lift up his name at the high place of the community. We went up to that high place, and as we're sitting on the high place and we're worshiping, I'm looking over, and about 20 yards over there on another little mound that is maybe 5 feet shorter than the highest peak in the Caribbean, there's an idol sitting there. And that little idol was bothering me the whole time we were worshiping. And you have to go up with guides. And so on the way down, the guides are waiting, and I said, y'all go ahead, I need to tinkle. And so they went ahead, and I tinkled. And then I climbed over onto the thing, and do you know that idols can't fly? They can't. They fall, they plummet. And whenever they hit the rocks at the bottom, they shatter. It's the weirdest thing. And so that idol learned that she can't fly. And I took every rock that idol was touching, and I threw it off the mountain. And I brought back stones and stacked 12 stones like they did in the Old Testament right there. I didn't know what to do. I was just asking, Lord, what should I do? I just stacked them there and left. We left that mountain that day. Starting that day, for the next 10 days, we had, remember, we're in a community, 500 people, where there were 2 believers when we came. The gospel had been in that community, had arrived in that community less than a year before. Before that, there had never been a presence of the gospel in the community. Can you believe there are places like that in the world? I can believe it because I was able to be the first person to take the gospel to 7 or 8 communities. In the following days, we had 80-something people accept the Lord in our community, and revival began to break out. And that was our first church plant. Our second church plant came because Hurricane George hit the Dominican Republic September 22nd, 1998. I know because that's 2 days before my birthday. And so on my birthday, I was cutting trees in Santo Domingo. It hit. Someone came to us and said, will you take this relief stuff with us out to a community? The community was 45 minutes from us, for a community 45 minutes away, and we were the closest believers. We went out to the community and shared the gospel and did all this stuff on maybe a Wednesday or a Thursday, something like that. Sunday, we were having church, and I look out, and that entire community had walked. It took them 2 hours to walk. The oldest person was in her 80s. The youngest child was 8 years old, and they walked to church that Sunday. And many of them accepted the Lord. And that's how we got our second church plant. We also did another move. One time we moved from a place called the Christian Training Center. And that was a funny one because we felt like that the Lord was beginning to move us, and we didn't know what was going on. And Esther was getting work in town, going to public schools, and doors were opening all over the place, and we were doing parenting classes and all this stuff. And one Friday I said to Esther, Esther, we have got to go to Larry, and we've got to talk to him because I don't do halfway very well. I'm not man enough, maybe, whatever it is. I just don't do halfway. And I said, we've got to, and she said, all right, what are you going to tell him? You've got no word from the Lord. You've got nowhere to go. You've got no job. You've got no plan. You've got no future. You've got nothing to say to Larry. And I said, ugh. And she said, if, however, they come to us, I'm willing to talk. And I said, all right. And I went to bed. It was one of those times whenever you just thank the Lord because the sun's already down, so the sun's not going to set on your anger until the next day, so you get a free nap, night's sleep with your anger, and then you can go through to the next day. So good. I try to always pick fights with my wife after dark so that I can do that. I went to bed grumpy. Good night. Next morning, I got up. The phone rings. No, it's only funny now. Next morning, got up, the phone rang, and Larry said, can we get with you and Esther this afternoon? That was Saturday. And that was whenever Larry said, we really don't want you anymore. And I said, did you want us to start with? No. He said, we want to release you. It looks like this and this and this is happening, and we want to release you. And the things that we had said that we needed to hear from the Lord, that Esther had said that we needed to hear from the Lord, every one of them, if Larry would have bugged up her J's, and if he If there is a bug in Upper J's, has nothing to do. If he would have bugged Upper J's, taken notes, and then come in and talk to us, he could not have gone down the list more perfectly. Yeah, too many details. Anyway, it's a longer story, but so many things began to fall into place. And we saw the Lord, in this time right now, the Lord has been saying to me, sit tight. Since last summer, since the end of last summer, sit tight. And so as I pushed to, I'm going to go tell him, and the Lord said, sit tight. Used Esther to do it, and that's not always the best plan. No. Oh, it is the best plan. It was the Lord's plan. Okay. It was not my plan. Sit tight. And every time that we would push forward and try to do something, we would hit roadblocks. And whenever we would sit tight, things would just open up. 3 weeks later, we had a house. 3 weeks, work, house. There may be a new hobby out there. I don't know. But anyway, that's the Lord's hand that we've seen move in the last little bit.
All right, will you tell us nuggets?
So go on down the list.
Will you do Deuteronomy?
Deuteronomy? All right, Deuteronomy 23, one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, starting with verses 12 to 15. This is so glorious, and it's in the Bible. Thank you, Jesus. You shall also have a place outside the camp, and you shall go out there. And you shall have a spade among your tools, and it shall be with you when you sit down outside. I don't know why you sit down outside. And you shall dig with it, and shall turn to cover up your excrement. That's odd. Since the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you and to defeat your enemies before you, therefore the camp must be holy, and he must not see anything indecent among you, or he will turn away from you. You shall not hand over to his master a slave. Let's do only through 14. This is one of the greatest themes in the Bible, is poop. This is a little nugget that's called poop happens and God knows. And the truth is, all of life is not pretty and clean and perfect. The truth is, there are things that we have to do in life that are unmentionable. There are things that we do in life that are private. There are things that we do in life that are outside the scope and should never be talked about in church. The truth is, though, that God knows that poop happens. And that every one of us has filth that comes out of them from time to time. The beautiful thing is that the Lord knows that, and he gives directions of how to deal with it. And he tells us that whenever your filth is going to come out, that you should go outside, get by yourself. You should sit down, dig a hole, sit down, and you should cover that up. You should take care of your filth in such a way that no one else will step in it. You should take care of your filth in such a way that flies are not going to land on there and then land on my plate. You should take care of your filth in such a way that it's beneficial to the environment. Do you know that when it's covered up, when it's taken care of, it's the most beneficial it can possibly be? Do you know that God is not surprised by difficult and filthy times in our lives? God knows that they're going to happen. And it's not evil or bad when it's taken care of in the right way. That's enough about that. Let's do Toy Story.
Okay, let's do Toy Story. Will you put that video up, please?
She's not actually here because this is happening on video from the past. She's sitting in the future. Toy Story. Toy Story is a little movie that came out in the 90s. It's about a toy who is a space hero named Buzz Lightyear and a cowboy named Woody. Woody is the star of the show, and he's the one that everyone loves. And Buzz Lightyear comes on the scene, Johnny-come-lately, and he's also going to be a hero together. But they have to work out their relationships. And so,
calling Buzz Lightyear. Come in, Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, stop it.
Our command.
Buzz Lightyear believes that he's actually a space ranger. He does not believe that he's a toy. And so Buzz Lightyear is gonna have a confrontation with reality right here. All right, sorry, Seth.
Do you read me?
Buzz Lightyear responding, read you loud and clear.
Buzz Lightyear, planet Earth needs your help.
On the way!
Buzz Lightyear, the world's greatest superhero, now the world's greatest toy!
Pause. I apologize to all of you who have seen this before. Pause, 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 pause. Oh. He'll get it. So Buzz Lightyear is like so many of us. Buzz Lightyear is a person who believes something about himself that is entirely based in a lack of connection with reality. Buzz Lightyear believes that he is a flying toy. He goes to prove it to Woody at one point, and he jumps and lands on a ball and goes through the room, does all these flips and all this stuff, lands on his feet, and Woody says to Buzz, "That's not flying, that's falling with style." He's confused about everything. And do you know, in our lives, there's often a time whenever we're confused about who we are. We believe what the world has told us. We believe whatever. This time is generally called middle school. We begin to take on, well, we don't know the reality of who we are. And so we live something that's false. And we're going to see what happens with Buzz Lightyear right here. Aren't those kids cute?
Buzz, hey, Buzz, are you okay?
Gone! It's all gone. Oh, it's gone. Bye-bye. Woo, see ya.
What happened to you?
One minute you're defending the whole galaxy, and suddenly you find yourself sucking down Darjeeling with
Marie Antoinette and her little sister. I think you've had enough tea for today. Let's get you out of here, Buzz.
Don't you get it? You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit.
Snap out of it, Buzz.
Pause. And so Buzz Lightyear gets captured by the neighbor boy who is an evil being, and he's taking Buzz, and the neighbor boy's little sister gets him. And the little sister dresses him up, and did you get the Marie Antoinette thing? They're both decapitated. Anyway, he's in there, and he has accepted an identity that's put on him by someone who is entirely different. He's no longer a space ranger. That reality, that bubble was burst. And so whatever the next identity was that came along, he just accepted that identity. And so whenever the little sister grabs him and says, "You're now Mrs. Nesbit, and you're going to drink Darjeeling, and you're going to do all of this stuff," I don't know what it is, tea. And, yeah, I don't know. My tea has ice in it. And he's losing touch with reality even worse than he was in the beginning. In the beginning, at least he was stable, but he was out of touch with reality. And now he's unstable, and he's out of touch. And this really is junior high. This really is whenever people can just, change their sexual identity. Weird stuff like that happens. And you see Buzz Lightyear going down there. But the story continues. And eventually, Woody goes to save, they're together in the little boy's house, and they get captured again. And so here we go with it. The little boy's name is Sid, by the way. He's bad.
Come on, Buzz, I can't do this without you. I need your help.
I can't help. I can't help anyone.
But sure you can, Buzz. You can get me out of here, and then I'll get that rocket off you, and we'll make a break for Andy's house.
Andy's house, Sid's house. What's the difference?
Andy is their original owner.
Buzz, you've had a big fall. You must not be thinking clearly.
No, Woody. For the first time, I am thinking clearly. You were right all along. I'm not a space ranger. I'm just a toy, a stupid, little, insignificant toy.
Whoa, hey, wait a minute. Being a toy is a lot better than being a space ranger.
Yeah, right.
No, it is. Look, over in that house is a kid who thinks you are the greatest, and it's not because you're a space ranger, pal. It's because you're a toy. You are his toy.
But why would Andy want me?
Why would Andy want you? Look at you. You're a Buzz Lightyear. Any other toy would give up his moving parts just to be you. You've got wings. You glow in the dark. You
Your
talk.
helmet does that
Your
whoosh
helmet
thing.
does that whoosh thing. You are a cool toy.
So your value is not in who you believe you are. but your value is in who you were created to be. Your value is is what the Creator sees you as. And so you could be a space ranger, you could be Mrs. Nesbitt, but the reality is that your value, your true worth comes from being exactly who God made you to be. And in the end, you see that Andy's name is written on Buzz Lightyear's foot, and do you know that my name is engraved in the hand of the Father? And that I am something special. I was made a little bit awkward and weird, jug-headed, long-bodied, short-legged, funny-looking, cute. But I was made the way that He made me, and He made me to be abnormal. Thank you, Jesus. I've embraced that. You should too.
All right, it looks like there's only one left in this file, but do you want to open it?
Let me see. Wait. Back in character. Wait. Don't know how wigs work. I'll learn soon enough. I can't do it. You can't get there from here. Oh, Lord Jesus, thank you. Well, youngin'.
Do you know how to use this thing?
Well, without it, I'd be lost. My entire memory's there. Well, if I was going to watch one of these, it would be the one that's called Abby, DTS. Remember when you were young?
All right, will you throw that PowerPoint up there? Ah, cool. All right, so as some of you know, I've been gone for the past 5 months, and I was at YWAM Tyler. Whoa. And we did a lot of things. The first 12 weeks, we had lecture phase, and you can just go through them and I'll talk. So you get to see a bunch of pictures, and you guys can watch and I'll talk and kind of explain some of them, maybe. I don't know. So for the past 5 months, I've been at YWAM Tyler, and I've been doing my discipleship training school. So it's been really just about, for the first 12 weeks, we had classes on like God's character, spiritual warfare, inner healing, the Father, heart of God, the fear of the Lord, some others that I don't really remember right now. But we did a lot of things, and so that was the first 12 weeks, and I think during that time, something that God was speaking to me, which it seems like He's been speaking that to a lot of people, is just about listening and obeying and simple obedience. Like, okay, Abby, go, today you're going to, I need you to be her friend. Oh, God, why? Like, is that really necessary? And so then I'd go and I'd do it. Okay, fine. Okay, Abby, in a few weeks they're going to, so I got asked to translate at one of our conferences, and I was like, I can't translate, like, simultaneous translation, like from the back, like, oh no, I can't do that. And so I was praying about it, and I really felt like the Lord was like, just do it, like, you'll see, it'll be fine. And I was like, oh, fine, like, I'll do it, whatever. I'm just going to sit there, and I'll take people's names, and I'll do all the administrative stuff, and it'll be fine, and I won't translate. And I ended up translating, and it was probably the most fun I've had in a long time. Like, it was actually really enjoyable. It was cool to see, like, God was so faithful to just, okay, Abby, this is what I told you to do, and now you're going to do it, and it's going to be so good, and I'm going to give you the strength to do it, and you're going to have the words, and yeah, so it was really good. And then for outreach, we did 7 weeks of outreach, and for a week and a half we were in Detroit, and then for 5 weeks we were in Mexico. And so these are all pictures in Mexico and playing with kids during VBS. And so the first 3 weeks we spent in a community really similar to where we grew up. There were 500 people, and the first believers were saved. The team before us that came in March, we didn't get there till April. And there were like 10 believers or something in a community of 500. So it was really cool because these people have been working in this community, doing community development, just integrating into the community, teaching civil government, building stoves, doing whatever it is that needs to be needed so that these people can do more than work to eat. They've been doing this for 10 years, and now they're, or some like 8 or 10, I don't know. And now they're getting to bring the gospel in, and now there are people being saved, and now they're seeing the harvest really come. And so it was really cool to come at this time. And we got to really be a part of their lives. And so to get there, to get to this community, we flew to Guadalajara, and then we took a bus to Tepic, and then we took a taxi to this place, and then we got on a boat, and we went. And it was a 45-minute boat ride inland on this lake that the government made for hydroelectricity. So it was really far away, and it was weird. And so we were there, and we got to build stoves, do VBS, do women's ministry, street evangelism, or community, I don't know what you would call it there. We did soccer ministry. The guys did soccer ministry. We had Bible studies.
Soccer ministry? That's soccer ministry.
Soccer.
Oh, soccer.
Soccer ministry. Yeah, so we were there for 3 weeks, and that was what we did for 3 weeks. And then we went to an orphanage, and we were painting.
What type of community was it? What language did they speak?
They were it was an indigenous community that we were in. So the kids were all bilingual. Some of the older people didn't speak Spanish. They spoke Huichol, which is what they're in. They were in the Sierra Madre Mountains. So it was really cool, because you'd hear the kids, line culture is kind of indirect. So one kid would be like, oh, ask her for her name, I don't know. And so they'd say it in Huichol, and then they'd be like, oh, this is what they said. And I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. And then my team would be like, what'd they say? And I'm like, I don't know, they're speaking Huichol, and I don't speak that, but I'll let you know when I learn. It was an adventure. And so then we were at an orphanage, and we were just painting this house, and this is us doing street evangelism. We did a skit, and I think I was explaining the skit. I don't know. I don't really remember. Yeah. So we were at an orphanage for 8 days, and we were painting this main house and just playing with the kids and building relationship, and it was actually really cool. It was a Christian orphanage, so being there for 8 days wasn't miserable. It was actually like a retreat coming from this community where the gospel just arrived, and where these people don't know God, and where it was constant like spiritual warfare. Like you always felt tired because just of the battle that was always going on, always. And then we come to this orphanage where you can feel the presence of God, and it's like, yeah, we were up at 6 still, like we were still going all day, but it was refreshing, and it was like a resort, except we were working. So we went, and the first day we got there, the kids were having their afternoon service, and we got there, and they stopped for a minute, they introduced us, and then they kept worshiping, and you'd see those kids. They had so many of the dances choreographed. They loved the Lord, and you could see it. We had been there 10 minutes, and these kids were loving God, and it was incredible. I was like, I've never seen kids between the ages of 2 and 17 who love God this much. Like, it was amazing, just the restoration that they had gone through, and just the way that God's love has really touched their heart. And so we were there for 8 days, and then we went to Guadalajara, and we were just in the city, and we were doing street evangelism. And so we did skits, and so we were doing skits, and we were just talking to people, and we went to all these weird convention things that were spiritually like really, but it was cool because we did this skit, Set Me Free, and so Jesus is wrestling with the demons, taking the chains from this girl who's chained, and you'd see we were at this convention with, I don't know, they had like dream catchers, and it was weird. It was just weird. And so you saw like Jesus is over there pulling, and we're fighting, and 3 of the guys come and they stand on Jesus' side, and they're helping him pull. And I was like, how are we supposed to keep going? Like, they're on Jesus. Okay, well, all right, I guess we're done. But it was amazing. Like, I mean, they probably didn't know what they were doing, but, I mean, they had just crucified Jesus, and everybody cheered when they crucified Jesus. It was like the Romans. And then Jesus is trying to wrestle against all the demons. There were like 7 demons. And these 3 guys come, and they stand next to Jesus, and they start pulling the imaginary chains with him. And I was like, wow, it's things like this. Even if they're not in their right mind, they'll remember this. God can use this to speak to their hearts. And this is just a seed planted. Like, oh my goodness, it was incredible. And so, yeah, I think that was one of the times when I was like, oh my goodness, like God can still use these things even when we don't see a way that he can take these things and use them. When these people aren't thinking clearly, when these people are worshiping Satan right over there, and we're over here loving the Lord, and people would come up to us, and we were just sitting there, and people would come, oh, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you just sitting here? Why are you here? And they could just sense the presence of the Lord just fall. And it was amazing. It was awesome. And so that has been the past 5 months. It has been so cool to see God's faithfulness through everything. We learned this skit in 2, maybe 3 hours the morning before we started performing it. And it was so funny. Before we were praying, we were like, okay, Lord, just, give us joy so that we can learn this, and give us strength, and the normal things that you ask for. It took 3 hours because we were laughing the whole time, the whole team. It was weird. We're just like, oh, I don't know why this is so funny. We're just standing here, and everybody's laughing, and they're like, the guy that was teaching us was like, come on, you guys, come on, we have to learn this so we can go, we have to learn this, and we're like, on the floor. It was really cool, though, to see, like, God was like, yeah, okay, I'll give you guys joy, that's what you asked for, so be careful what you ask for. But yeah, so it was just really cool to see all the different ways that God was faithful, just to provide and to answer prayers and to be with us and to just teach us, and yeah, a lot of cool things. Whoa. Video.
I remember when you got back, you said, Dad, that's the first time I ever actually saw people worshiping Satan. I said, you ever been to Frank? No. Just kidding.
Oh yeah. So I just want to say thank you for all of you guys, to all of you guys for praying and just all the support that I've been getting from you guys. It was awesome. Thank you.
Don't you lose that thing. I'll be lost without it. I've got things to do. We'll be seeing you all around.